It feels really lonely when you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, I'm debt free and you want to celebrate, but you don't really have anyone to celebrate with because nobody really understands it.
My guest today is a first-gen Latina, eldest daughter, and the creator behind OverGenPoverty. She grew up watching her dad support a family of 5 on less than $30,000 a year. And today, she and her husband, Javi, have a combined net worth of $510,000. We checked it live. And as always, we get into the actual numbers. Viviana breaks down the income climb from a $57,000 teaching salary to working 2 full-time jobs at once, to $185,000 in tech, to crossing $130,000 in revenue in her first 5 months as a full-time business owner.
This year, I surpassed $130,000 in revenue.
She shares how she became debt-free before 25 while supporting her family.
I was home, but I was still helping my family because I was the breadwinner. So I was paying for the rent, I was paying for all the expenses. So I was buying like groceries for a family of 5.
Plus, what it really looks like to be the first, helping her parents pay off $80,000 of debt, and the credit card intervention that involved actual tape.
I literally had to put tape over his cards. I put a Post-it note on his credit cards and I was like, no usar, like do not use.
She walks us through the World Cup trip she'd been saving for since 2022, how much she spent on 13 tickets, flights for her family, and whether it was all worth it. And then finally, she shares why she does what she does, what's most important to her.
At the end of the day, I think like what truly brings me happiness is being able to gift experiences to my family and like have new experiences with Javi.
I'm Ashley, certified financial planner, founder of The Fiscal Femme, and I'm asking the question everyone is already wondering. How do people actually afford their lives? This is How Do You Afford This? Welcome to the show, Viviana.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to have you. I'm so excited to get into it. You went from poverty to having a net worth of $510,000. We just checked it. You live in New York City. You run your own business full time. You just attended the World Cup in Mexico. How do you afford this?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's been a long journey. I'm not going to lie. Like my husband and I have been together for 10 years. And so we met in college. The 510 number is our net worth combined. So just as a disclaimer, like if anyone thinks it's just me, no, it's been a team effort. We got on the same page financially when I started my debt-free journey in like 2020 and started kind of educating myself, got him into it. And then we both just became really, really disciplined with not just managing our finances and like tracking every dollar, but also increasing our income. And so that's helped a ton.
I am so excited to have you on the show because you really live what How Do You Afford This is all about, like transparency and experiencing real joy while building wealth. We were just at a conference together a couple of months ago in Puerto Rico, and Viviana was going around asking everyone their net worth, which, it's like, so I loved it so much. What kicked off your money journey? And can you share some of the highlights and challenges along the way?
Yeah, it was actually so funny because in 2020, you know how everybody started talking about investing. So on social media, I would just see people trading and telling people what to invest in. And so I kind of fell into that trap. And it started off by just me seeing all these social media posts and being super interested in making more money because I was a teacher at the time. I'm an eldest daughter. And so I wanted to support my family. I wanted to do more for them. I thought that me having a teacher salary at the time that was like $57,000 and I was paying my way through grad school. I thought that was a lot of money because my dad growing up, he was making less than $30,000 a year and he was supporting a family of 5. So I was like, oh, I'm making almost double. I can definitely take care of the family. I can, build wealth. We're basically rich is what I thought. And then when I actually got paid and started paying off my bills and I had credit card debt from college. I was like, how did my dad do this? Like, how did he raise all of us off of just his income? And so it kind of was like a moment for me where I woke up and I was like, no, I need to change something. I started just Googling like, how much do people make in New York City? What's the average salary? Like, what does a new grad make? And so a lot of my friends went into banking and they were making, 70 to 100,000 right out of college. And I just thought, well, if they could do it, if they could make that kind of money, why can't I? And so that's how I kind of pivoted out of teaching and explored other career options. And I landed in like the fintech space, specifically doing like writing, copywriting, and then marketing work. But I think that it was just, social media that opened these doors for me and a whole new world. And I'm so grateful because I've been following you for a while. I've been following like Janice for such a long time. She was like one of the first people that I followed on social media. And it
Love
was
Janice.
I know, it was so amazing to see women talk about those things because I feel like a lot of the traditional finance content out there, I couldn't relate to it.
And it's so full circle because that's what so much of what you do is sharing. You got started on this journey, caught the bug, if you will, from social media. And then now that is how you share so much value and content. Curious, you mentioned growing up and how your dad figured out how to afford it. Did you grow up in the city?
Yeah. Yeah. We grew up in the city, but we were in a rent control department for the longest time. And those are basically extinct. But basically, rent control versus rent stabilized apartments. Rent stabilized apartments, they go up, like a little bit of a percentage every year in rent. It's basically controlled by the city. And then rent controlled apartments are like the super, super, super cheap apartments that it's like you have had to live there 20 plus years to be able to, I guess, like fall under that law. And so we were paying $1,000 in rent for like old building 3-bedroom. It wasn't a really nice apartment. There was like issues with the water, with the electric, it was very dirty. There was like rats and roaches and all that stuff. But it was a 3-bedroom in the city for $1,000, which was like very, very, very rare.
Right. I want to break down. So you mentioned the 500K, and I love that you shared it's like you and Javi, it's a team.
Hmm.
And that's so inspiring. And it sounds like it started in 2020 when you were essentially your net worth was below zero. It was your debt free journey.
Yeah.
Are you open to sharing how how far out of school you were, how old you were, how old you are now, and what makes up those numbers outside of the breakdown between you two?
Yeah. So I remember this clearly because my goal was to become debt free by 25. And so I worked 2 jobs during COVID. I was working my teacher job and I was working another full time job because at
What kind
that
of teacher
point
were you?
I was an ENL teacher. So English as a new language. So I taught immigrants, which was very much aligned to, my values, my passion. I taught recent arrivals and I got to teach a personal finance course. And that's also another reason why I kind of got into teaching on social media. But I was working that job and I was working a paralegal job at a nonprofit. And so between my teaching job, which was like 57,000 and the nonprofit job, which was 50,000, I was making over 100,000, but I was using all of the money from my nonprofit job salary to pay off all my debt aggressively. And also my parents were in debt. My parents had combined maybe close to $80,000 of debt. And I was starting off with like maybe 30,000 between student loans, between credit card. So we were struggling back then, but I paid off my debt first and then I helped them figure out like a debt payoff plan. And then they became debt free a couple years later. I became debt free in 2020, right before
Wow.
moving out. But it was very quick because like I said, I was using, my whole paycheck and putting that towards my debt payoff.
And so you hit the 25-year-old goal.
Yes, I became debt free before 25 and that was like a big, big deal for me.
That's amazing. And you said moved out, so you were home.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
was home, but I was still like helping my family because I was the breadwinner. So I was
Mhm.
paying for the rent, I was paying for all of the expenses. So one of my checks was used for household stuff. And at the time, my brother was still living there, my parents were living there, me, my sister for a little bit. So I was buying like groceries for a family of 5. I was basically taking on my dad's role at that point. The other paycheck I was using to just pay off debt and save. And one of the things that Javi and I did was before moving out, he was very supportive of my debt free journey. He even offered, like, he had money saved. He was like, I can lend you the money. Like, you don't have to pay me. You can pay me back slowly. And I was like, no, I want to do this on my own.
Mm.
And I did do it on my own. And then he said, well, if we want to move out together, because at that point we were together for, I think, 4 years. At that point, we were already together for 4 years since college, but we were both living at home. he was able to save because he didn't have as much responsibility financially as I did. And I told him, "Hey, I really want to move out." And he said, "I think we should save a year's worth of rent before moving out so that we could feel extra great about where we're starting financially." So he saved half and I saved half. And we set a budget of like $1,500, which was like low back then per month for rent. So we saved around like 12,000, something like 12 to $14,000. So like 7K each, right? Let's just say 7K each. And that was a lot of money for me. I was like, I was at a negative and then going from negative to 7K before moving out in my
And what year is
savings.
this?
This was still 2020. This
Okay.
was still 2020. Yeah. So
Wow.
it happened very quickly because of like I said, working with two jobs. And so, yeah. And then we moved out together and we found a really amazing deal. We found rent stabilized apartment in Astoria for 1669. And so that
Right
was
on your number.
yeah, so that was a COVID deal and it was amazing. We spent that first year just basically chilling financially because we had savings. We both had stable jobs. And so it didn't feel as stressful like moving out together for the first time because money wasn't really an issue.
Mm. And I wanted to get into this later, but just because we're talking about it, what does your support for your family look like now?
Now it's so much, I feel so much more, I guess, like less stressed because I've worked really hard to set my parents up or teach them how to set themselves up for an emergency. So they have
Mm.
a fully funded emergency fund. They don't have any debt, they're debt free. And so all the money that my dad makes is kind of set up automatically so that 20% is automatically being saved in his high yield savings account. He finally got a job where they have a 401k match. So I like helped him enroll in that right away. And also, like the money that they're saving, like at the end of the year, we kind of sit down together and we're like, okay, we're going to put this into your Roth IRA. Like, what do you guys want to invest in? So they're in a lot better place than they are now. So now it's kind of just I help them whenever I want to for fun. So if
Mhm.
we're going out to eat, like I'll pay for the whole family. Or when, my mom is like, oh, I don't have, it's funny. This is not an ad, by the way, guys, but it's just, I used to work at a company called Greenlight, and it's a debit card for kids and teens, but we would get it as a benefit as employees for free because it was a subscription. And so I signed my mom up as my child, and I would put money in that every single month for her. So it used to be that kind of system where I would put in like $400 to $600 a month for her to spend on like groceries. And if she had any money left over, like she could spend it on her stuff. Now I put money in that card for her to spend on like fun stuff. So I'll put in like $200 to $400 a month in there, as needed. Like if I see her balance running low, I'm like, here's $200 so you can, go buy yourself something. So now I provide that kind of support, and it's like my favorite thing to do because I want them to feel like they can also spend on fun stuff, experiences, going out, because that's something that I don't think we ever got to do without it being stressful.
I've definitely noticed that in your philosophy, and we're going to talk about the World Cup, but like you're building, but you're also living and enjoying life.
Yeah.
Just that 500K number, can you break down? You mentioned now there's no debt in that number, that
Yeah.
there's you and Javi, there's probably emergency fund. Like, how is that broken out between investing, retirement? Like, how do you think about that
Yeah.
breakdown?
So part of that is like my business. So I have a lot of cash sitting in the bank because of my business, because it's my first year being a full-time business owner. So I'm, kind of holding on to that money, seeing if I maybe reinvest it in the business or like invest the money. I'm still kind of figuring that out. So I have like my own business account, and in that I probably have around $60,000. So a big portion of this is cash because 60K, and then Javi has his own like mini emergency fund for his family. That's another like 2K. I have my own like family emergency fund as well. That's like 3K. And then we have our joint account where we have cash in there. We have around 20,000 in there. The rest is all investments. It's like Javi's investments through his 401k, his Roth IRA, his brokerage. And then I also have the same accounts. I have my 401k for my old jobs. And then I have a new solo 401k that I opened recently. because I'm a business owner and I can.
Okay.
And yeah, and then Roth IRA, brokerage, and we have a joint, well, he has an HSA through his job. So we recently got on a high deductible health plan. And so we've been contributing to that as well.
Amazing. And you mentioned that a big part of this was having two jobs
Yeah.
and being able to put that income towards it. What has your income looked like over time? Like, how has it
Yeah,
changed over the
it's been
years?
it's been so crazy, and I posted about this a lot where like I've shown exact numbers throughout, when I started working when I was like 12 as like a church assistant. And then I I've just done a bunch of odd jobs. I've done like soccer coaching, I've done like martial arts
Hmm.
instructor, like I've done a bunch of different things. I used to do Uber. My husband and I, now husband, when we were teachers, like this was still during COVID, I guess 2020, 2021, we would, because everything was remote, we would pick up random side hustles. Like we would do focus groups, we would do Uber Eats, like delivery walkers. And yeah, and he would go do like studies and they would pay him. Like all of that money, I think has helped. But yeah, I think over the years, thankfully, I've been able to increase my income exponentially. Like I started 2018 was my first year of like salary, and that was 57,000, right, as a teacher. And then I took a pay cut for that nonprofit paralegal job that was 50K. Then I went back up to 57K when I broke into tech. And then from there, it just, I started job hopping and looking for new opportunities every time I could. And my last full time job, I was making $180,000. And that was because I was making, I think, 185,000, because I was making 170 base and then a $15,000 bonus. So that
And
was
what
my
were you
last.
doing for the tech firm?
So my last job, I was basically a creative marketing manager,
So
a
fitting.
senior creative marketing manager. So I worked my way up from copywriter, which is like people that just, and anytime you see like an email or you see a billboard or any sort of ad, the people that write the words for those ads, those are the copywriters. So that's how I started. And then I became a content manager. So I did more of like planning and educational content instead of like marketing copy. And then from there, I just kept moving up and started doing more creative stuff, leading teams. And yeah, my last role, I was working as like a combination of all of that at a startup. And
And
then
it's so
now,
fitting for what you do now,
yeah,
right?
I
It's
know.
like those are great skills.
Yeah, I loved like doing that kind of work. If one day I, find an opportunity where it's like super, super aligned, then honestly, I'd be open to like going back to full-time work. But it's hard because social media is so demanding. And so, owning a business is like a much more work than having a full-time W-2 job, is what I've learned. But the payoff is, there's no limits to how much you can make. So this year, I haven't shared this yet. This year, I already surpassed $130,000 in revenue. Yeah, and that was when I calculated it at the beginning of May. Ju- June, end of June, I think I'm ending with more. And it's amazing because it's like, wow,
Your first year too.
yeah, I kind of feel like part of me is like, wow, I can't believe I did that. I can kind of relax now because I was working so much every single day. And then the World Cup came around and I kind of got to relax a little bit and kind of take a break from, being on every single day. But also with social media, like you've seen this, some people are making $130,000 in 1 month. So it's like inspiring because I know that there's so much more that I could do. But I'm just taking my own path and figuring out like what works for me, especially on
Yes.
the like balance side, right? Like having a good work life balance is super important to me. So I feel happier and I just feel way better about the work that I'm doing when I'm not super, super stressed.
And can you tell us like what types of revenue sources the 130 came from? And
Yeah.
I like, how do you decide what to pay yourself? Like, I know you mentioned, especially your first year, wanting to keep this buffer and the
Mhm.
savings and deciding what to reinvest. Like, what are you paying yourself now?
Yeah, I just started paying myself in June. No, May. May, I started paying myself $3,000 a month.
That's amazing.
And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I do as a business owner, like we get to write a lot of things off. So some of my business meals, like anytime Javi and I are working on a podcast together, or he's helping me film or something, we're doing something outside, like once in a while I'm like, "Hey, let's go eat out, like let's go to dinner and I'll pay for it." Like, the business will pay for it, which is allowed if it's like a business meal, right? If you're discussing ideas, filming, all that stuff. So
Yes.
so it feels like I can still kind of pay myself in other ways, even though I'm not paying myself a six-figure salary yet.
And I think too, when you think about what you pay yourself as a business owner, it's after tax, right? So like if
Yeah.
you're it's kind of sometimes fun to like put that in a payroll calculator, add in the meals. You were probably, you were building up your business on the side before. Now it's a write-off. So you're getting 30% off for all those things or whatever it is. So it's fun. Sometimes it's fun to work backwards and see like, what would this be? What would I have to earn in a salary job to get that, you know?
Yeah, and I also have business expenses. So, I have a VA now. I'm hiring a couple interns. I had a podcast producer that I was paying, $900 a month for. So there's a lot of like pros and cons to being a business owner, and so that's why I'm kind of being a little bit more conservative on the financial side of things, because I know that it could really fluctuate month over month. Like I've been very lucky the beginning of this year, but I'm not expecting to make that same amount. I hope to, but I'm not like, it's not a guarantee like it is with my
Right.
W-2 job.
And the 130, that's because that's the top line, right? That's your
Yeah, yeah,
revenue.
that's
And then
revenue. And then, minus expenses and all that, it's definitely way less, and
I was gonna
taxes.
ask about your team. So you have a VA. Do you still have the podcast producer or
We're taking a break from the podcast right now. So we're in between seasons, but we're going to start that up again this summer. And so that expense is going to come back. But the VA is $500 a month and it's part time. It's only a couple hours a week. And then the interns that I'm hiring, we are hiring for $20 an hour, fully remote. And again, just a couple hours a week. So
what are they gonna help with?
they're going to help with hosting events in different cities because we're doing more in person stuff this year, and also like virtual events as well. So we're going to do a lot of like workshops and community stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little already, but you are first gen, hence the
hmm
business name, and you can already see that you're passionate about it. But what do you think drives your passion to talk to first gen specifically? And how is that conversation different? Right.
Yeah, I love this question because when I started my page, the reason why I started it was because I felt very lonely in my financial journey. I felt like there was no one that I could talk to about not just the numbers side of finance, but also the emotional side. I'm the eldest daughter. I'm the first one in my family to speak English, to go to graduate from high school, to graduate from college, to like step foot into an office. My dad worked in a garage for all his career pretty much. And then recently he became a porter in the same building. So he's never had like a 9 to 5. He's always worked like overnights, or like, people at work in his building, like they give him stuff because they're like, oh, here, you need this. Like here, like give this to your children. So, being now a first gen college grad, and then also like first one to have a career, first and only one, because my brother still works at a coffee shop. My sister didn't graduate from college. She's actually a full-time dog walker and she's trying to start her own business too. My cousins, like, unfortunately, they didn't get to go to college even though they studied here in the US. I have, yeah, no one in my family to really talk to about these things because I feel like they haven't gone to the point where they're even financially stable yet. So it feels really lonely when you get to the point where you're like, oh my God, I'm debt free, and you want to celebrate, but you don't really have anyone to celebrate with because nobody really understands it. And I always say this, I say that it is going to take us more time because we have, as first gens, more family to worry about. Like we're not just worrying about our own finances, but while I was paying off my debt, I was still helping my family. After I paid off my debt, I was still sending my parents money every month. Even now for the World Cup, like I had to pay for my sister, not had to, but I wanted to. And I could pay for my sister and my brother to fly out to Mexico City. I paid for their hotel, I paid for their flights. And yeah, I'm very grateful that I can do that. But sometimes it just feels like, oh, I wish that I had like a friend that would understand what this feels like. And so that's kind of what I'm building, or what I'm trying to build, is a space, a community for those first gen Latinas to come together and talk about those things and just connect and build friendships and help each other out. Because oftentimes it feels like we're the ones that are just helping.
Mm.
And sometimes it doesn't feel like we're being helped, or we're being supported. So that's my mission. That's my goal.
It's beautiful. And outside of, you talked about setting up the green light, right? And teaching parents, helping them make a plan, supporting them financially, like any other things that came up for you or challenges as first gen, or like any expectations or norms or things that were hard as you earned more?
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, first, I think it's the lifestyle creep, right? That comes with you making more. You've never seen that much money in your life, especially as a first gen, right? I said that my dad was making less than $30,000 a year growing up. So when my husband and I got to the point where we were making over $300,000 combined, it felt like, wow, we are just on a completely different level financially. And part of it is like guilt, like we should be helping more, we should be doing more, we should be
Mm.
paying for everything. But then at the same time, it's like stressful because I'm very transparent. So everybody in my family knows that I'm well off. And so I think there's like this expectation now. Whenever we go out to eat, it's like, oh yeah, Viv's gonna pay, or like, yeah, Viv got it. Especially with my siblings, they're younger, so they're like, oh yeah, my sister is like rich. So like she
She's
can
money bags.
so she got it. And so I don't ever want them to feel like they can't come to me for money, or, support when they actually need it. But I also don't want to, in Spanish we say acostumbrar, but I'm blanking on the word in English, but I don't want them to like expect for
Like be
me.
accustomed to.
Yeah, be accustomed to it. Yeah, every single time. I want them to also, and it's so funny because I feel like maybe parents feel like this with their kids, like they don't want them to be spoiled. They want them to like learn to work hard. And that's kind of how I feel with some of my family members sometimes. It's like I really want them to pave their own way. And so I think it's like this balance of how do I treat my family and give them the life that I worked really hard for us to have, but then also educate so they could do it on their own.
Right. Like teach them to fish.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
that's one thing. And then the other thing is like habits. Habits are so hard to break. And so a lot of people that, especially in the immigrant community, first gen community, they pay off their debt and then they go into debt again. And that happened to
Mm.
me. Before 2020, I had like in college, I had maybe had like $3,000 of credit card debt, paid it all off. I was really happy. And then I got myself into even more debt. The same thing happened to my dad. And and I remember telling him, I'm like, you guys are debt free now. Like, no more, misusing credit cards. Like, stick to the debit card. What I did is like, I stopped using credit cards altogether for like a year or two, trained myself to basically not overspend. And then when I felt comfortable, I was like, okay, I can use my credit card now, but I'm going to pay this off every single week or every single day because I do not ever want to get into debt again. And so I think that's also been hard, is like instilling better financial habits or like helping them get there. I literally had to put tape over his cards. I put a post-it note on his credit cards and I was like, no usar, like do not use. So so now like all his credit cards are like taped up with those letters on it. And I told my mom, like, you have to make sure that he actually like keeps these cards at home and only takes his debit card because that's the only way he's going to learn. And so it's funny because it's like I kind of have to treat them as kids sometimes, but that's part of the whole first gen experience, right? It's like a lot of us are parentified and like we have to kind of act like parents sometimes. And now I laugh because it's like I'm in such a good position. But back then I was very, very resentful. I was very stressed all the time. And so
Because you're trying to make it as you're helping them get by. And yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's been an up and down journey, but I think finally I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I can breathe now. Everybody's responsible. Like we're good.
A lot because of you. And when you did the training of yourself with the debit card, did that work? Like when you started to add in, and that's incredible.
Yeah, it worked. It worked. And I remember because I also have a lot of experience with like consolidation and all that stuff because I've done that myself. Like I've done snowball method, I've done avalanche method. I did like a debt consolidation program with a nonprofit. And I also looked into the other type of debt consolidation that it's like you stop paying the cards and then you're like your credit score drops. But I didn't do that type of consolidation. I did like a different one. And so I was still paying.
Renegotiate.
Yeah, yeah. Also calling the cards and renegotiating the rate and all that stuff. So a lot of the companies that lowered my rate, they were like, we can lower your rate, but we're going to close the card. So I had to rebuild my credit. And so when I was ready to rebuild my credit, I opened a secured credit card and I would just, put like $20 on it every month and just slowly rebuild my credit. And then at the end of the year, they were like, okay, you're getting your deposit back. We're graduating you into a real credit card. And I was so scared to use it. But I think my husband helped me a lot with, being like, oh, because he's always been pretty good with, he's never had any debt. Like he's always been a saver. And so he helped me a lot with just put $20 on it and like, yeah, we're going to put a reminder or like put it on auto pay and like you're for sure going to have the 20 in your account. So yeah, the habit building I think has helped a lot.
It's incredible. All right. So, Javi, you're married recently, and I saw that your engagement and your wedding were covered by People magazine.
Yeah,
How
it was
did you
so weird,
meet?
honestly. Um,
And
I
tell us about that.
Yeah, so I met Javi in college in 2014 is when we met, and then we became friends on the soccer team. He was the goalie, I was a team manager, and we actually worked together. I did work study at the athletics department, and he also worked, part-time in college there. And we would spend a lot of time together, so we would just talk about our families, and he's also the eldest in his family, and so he's from Ecuador, Mexican. And so we just shared a lot of similarities, had a good friendship. And then we started dating officially in 2016. And we've been together, ever since it's going to be 10 years this year, this October. But we got married last year and we had a 4-year engagement. So we got engaged in 2021. We got married in 2025. And at first we were thinking of just like eloping because, financially it just made more sense. And we didn't want to spend a lot of money on the wedding. But then his brother got married in Cancun, I think in like 2023 or 2024. And we loved the experience of like allowing everyone to travel, experience a resort. And also, it wouldn't be such a big financial cost because with destination weddings, the people have to, pay for their flight and pay for their stay. And so the cost would kind of be off us and onto the guests. And so the reason why we had a 4-year engagement was because one, we were kind of undecided on like, do we want to elope? Do we want to have a big wedding? We both have big families. And then when we did decide the whole like, okay, we're going to do a destination wedding, we were like, we have to give people enough time to save. So we gave everyone like a year and a half heads up, maybe even 2 years. We told everybody start saving up because it is destination wedding. So you're going to have to pay for the flight and the hotel. And it also gave us a lot of time to save because we knew we were going to have to cover costs for some of our family members that we really wanted to be there or provide some like financial aid. So we ended up covering the flights for my family, 1 room or 2 rooms for 2 families on my side. And then on his side, thankfully, like his family is pretty financially stable. They save up for vacations every year. So this was kind of their vacation. And it was an amazing time because we literally got to not just like enjoy 4 days with everybody, but we also like seeing people that had never traveled before experience that. Like we had family from Mexico that they literally do not live in the city. They've never like traveled to a nice hotel ever. And they flew in from the outskirts of Mexico City into this resort and they were like, wow, like they were crying. They were like, I never thought that I'd live to experience something like this. Like, this is beautiful. This is like what you see on TV. They had a great time and it felt really good having the money to be able to afford to help get people there.
It's so on brand to give guests time to save up for the wedding. I love that. How did you know who you needed to support? Were there conversations had, or you just knew in advance that certain family members or were you offering or, yeah, curious how
Yeah.
those conversations went?
Yeah. So it was me and Javi talking about like, is his family going to need any support? And we decided no, because they like go to that hotel often. So they kind of, yeah. And also his family who all came to his brother's wedding, like we knew like, okay, they're going to say yes. And we're giving them heads up. So they'll definitely be there. And then for my side of the family, we were like, okay, we definitely need to save up for anybody from who lives in Mexico to be able to help them because it's going to be really expensive for them. So we gave them a heads up, but we also told them like, hey, if you guys really want to go, we can help with some of the costs. And so initially we were like, we can pay for half the room, and all you guys have to do is pay for the flight and the other half of the room. And for some people, like that was still too expensive, but for some people it was like, oh, okay, like yes. So we had one aunt, one uncle accept that offer, and then we had a family of four, a family of three who I'm really close with who lives here in the US. They had never traveled. They've never traveled outside of their like area. So they live in Virginia and they've never traveled outside of New York, Virginia, because that's where our family is located. It was the first time for my three cousins, to get on a plane. So we paid for their flight and we paid for their room because I really wanted them to be there. And then my family, like my immediate family, like we paid for all of their flights and half of their room because again, we knew that it was going to be hard for them to come up with the money and we really wanted them to be there too. So
It's amazing. Can you share how much you spent on the wedding, like the
yeah,
4 days and all of it?
yeah. So specifically we had two weddings. We had a wedding in New York, which wasn't supposed to be anything big. Like I told my parents, this is just so that we could get married at the church because we're both religious, we're Catholic. And it got out of hand because my parents just love inviting everybody. And so we had to kind of like disinvite people. We're like, only the people that can't travel for immigration purposes are allowed to come to that. So, I have family in the US that like they can't travel. And so we specifically did that wedding for those people.
Got it.
So it was like maybe 14 total people in the New York wedding. And my parents offered to pay for the dinner. So they have a friend in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood and they gave them like an offer of like, oh, for unlimited drinks, unlimited food for like 15 people, it's going to be like 3K, right? But the bill ended up being less. And so Javi and I were just like, we're just going to pay for it. It's not like we can afford to pay for it. So my parents didn't end up paying for anything. It was just us. So for that wedding, it was around like $7,000. And then with everything, with like donation to the church, photography, all that stuff. And then for the wedding in Cancun, with everything, flight, stay, us paying for people, it was around $35,000. So definitely over budget because we were trying to keep everything under 30. But I feel like without the dinner that kind of came up last minute, without the family support, it would have been way closer to 30.
Right, right. That makes perfect sense. And wedding, relationship, you have a podcast, Te Quiero Más,
Mas.
with Javi.
Yeah.
What inspired it, and how did you get him on board? Because he's not a creator, right? Has a different type of job.
Yeah, he's a technical account manager. No, actually, he used to be a technical account manager. He's a solutions engineer now. But I think just his story is like so amazing. We both went from teaching. He did a boot camp, and we actually in 2021, I told him I'm moving to Atlanta. We were dating at the time, living together. And I told him I really want to break into tech and this is the only opportunity that I'm seeing and I'm going to take it. So I'm moving to Atlanta. And he said, I'm going to move with you. And I was like, what are you going to do? He was like, well, I think I'm going to do this boot camp so that I could also transition into tech, but become a software engineer. And his reasoning was because in his high school where he was teaching at, he's a math teacher or was a math teacher, they assigned him to teach a computer science like intro level class. So he was teaching coding to kids without him even knowing it himself, but it kind of piqued his interest. And so he did the boot camp. He was unemployed, right, doing the boot camp while I was working in Atlanta. And it took him almost like 6 months, maybe more, to find a job. But when he found his job, I was so proud of him, so excited for him. His first job was paying him $90,000 a year
Wow.
with a bonus. So it was like close to 100K. And I was like, wow, like he literally went from teaching to almost making 100K in tech. And then, he's so smart. So like he just kept getting recruited and interviews at amazing places. And now his salary, his total compensation is 170K. So his salary is 150 something. And then he has a bonus. He has great benefits. He's like really happy at his job. And a lot of people ask, like, how did you guys do it? How did you guys do basically the same thing? And I think it's one, just being super aligned and on the same page with your partner,
Mhm.
just talking about finances, talking about career growth, like having those conversations and actually actioning on them could take both of you guys super far. And I feel like we've kind of proved that. And so, we were having dinner one night and I was like, this should be a podcast, like us talking about our journeys and like what we did to get to where we are. Should like share this with people? And he was like, yeah, I'm down. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to ask my friend who has a podcast, how do we go about this? And so she helped us with like setting up everything, equipment, like software, all that stuff, and then helped us produce it. So I was like, this is a win-win. I get to help her, she gets to help us, and we get to share her story. And it's been going super well. I think a lot of people really admire like how we both are first gen. We literally, like, our families never introduced us to anyone. Like, we don't have a network. We kind of built everything that we've had, that we have right now in our life from scratch.
Yes. And it reminds me when you said, like, if you're aligned, you can go so far together, that how important of a financial decision it is, like who your partner is, because it can
Yeah.
also do the opposite. And I think money conversations between partners and just getting to hear how you talk through it is so powerful and
Yeah.
shows like how you've catapulted each other in this wealth building journey.
Yeah, and it's always been, not always, but I think it's been like a really good balance of like sometimes I'm too frugal. Like I'm like, no, I don't think we should spend that much money on those tickets. And he's like we have it. Like we're good. Like we can afford to do that. Like let's do that. And so sometimes it's been, that, or sometimes it's been him being like, "Oh, I don't need new clothes." And I'm like, "All of your clothes have holes in them. Like we need to buy you new clothes." So I think we balance each
Oh,
other out really well, and we're both on the same page when it comes to, yes, saving and taking care of our future selves, but also, our families have never experienced a lot of the things that we get to experience now, or that we can afford to experience now. So we're going to enjoy life presently as well.
yes. And I've realized I never heard the story. So I want to ask about your Payday series because I love them and I want to just talk like, but first, can you tell us how the People magazine thing came about? I
Oh
forgot to
yeah.
never, I
Oh
never
yeah, the
asked
People
about
magazine. Honestly, I didn't even know that they were doing that. They just
that.
they just, I guess, shared it because they saw that it was in Business Insider. So I write articles for Business Insider as like a freelancer sometimes, and they're about personal finance. So when I was saving up for the wedding, I wrote a couple of articles about the plan of how I was going to save up and what our original budget was. And then we got married, and obviously like we kind of went over budget. And I think People magazine just liked that I was being so transparent with the numbers, and
Yeah.
shared it like through their channels.
Got it. Because I was looking up, like researching before our conversation. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Okay. Take us through your latest payday routine as dinkwads. And can you
Yes.
explain
Okay.
what dinkwads are?
Yes. Dinkwads is dual income, no kids with a dog.
Oh,
um,
got it.
and
Good.
I love Callie, like our dog. She is our baby. We rescued her from the streets of Mexico and brought her back when she was a puppy. And I just want to spoil her so much. Like I am such a dog lover. But yeah, so payday. I have a budget template that Javi and I use every single pay period. And that's kind of how the payday routine started, is because like both him and I, every time he gets paid, before we spend any money, we like sit down and we fill out our budget template. And this helps us just get an understanding of like, okay, this is how much money came in this month or is coming in this month. and this is what we're going to spend it on. And we have very big families. So every month there's like a birthday, a baptism, like something, So I feel like our biggest expense is like not because we have plans, but because other people invite us to things. And then we have to consider, okay, it's this person's birthday. We have to budget for a gift. We have to budget for like the dinner. We have to, it's Father's Day. We're going to take both our dads out and like do something special for them. So we love going all out for our friends, our family. But when it comes to us, we're kind of like a little bit more frugal. So like in June, since we haven't done our July one yet, in June, we brought in $9,690. And that includes the $3,000 that I paid myself. And then Javi's take home was $6,690.95. And then we actually spent $5,000. This doesn't include any World Cup stuff because we have a separate budget for that. Like we had a sinking fund in our high yield savings account specifically for World Cup.
Yes, I want to know all the World Cup deeds. I think that would be so interesting.
Yeah. So any money, like anything we spent on in Mexico relating to the World Cup, that money got taken out from that sinking fund. So because we were like traveling for a lot of the month, our expenses were lower. So like groceries, we only spent $372. Personal care and wellness, I think I got a haircut. I like paid for my mom's haircut. Javi got a haircut. Like we did a lot more this month. So that was a little higher, $276. Gifts, $362. Again, Father's Day. Medical, we spent $499 because I had to go to like the dentist last minute for an emergency. Javi had to go to the dentist as well. And then $200 to my mom, like for her stuff. Takeout, $58. And anytime we buy takeout, we go pick it up. Like we don't pay for delivery fees. That's been like a habit that we built up. And then Javi goes into the office and he has a lunch budget. So he spent $17.28 on his lunch since he wasn't really in the office this month. Miscellaneous, $50. And then like our bigger fixed expenses, rent. Our rent is $27.64. The reason why it's so low is because we won New York City lottery apartment that is rent stabilized a couple years ago. So we've been in that.
And you can stay until you leave.
We can stay for 20 years and it's rent stabilized.
Wow.
Yeah. So once you apply and you're in, they don't really check your income after that. But before you like move in, your income has to match, the income level that they're asking for. And they have asset limits. So because we got this a couple years ago, we were still under the asset limit and at the income level they requested.
No, I was just going to say, this is something you do retroactively for the last pay period.
No, right? No. So because we just got back from Mexico, we haven't done July yet. Like we haven't spent any money in July yet. So we have to sit down and do our payday routine for July. But yes, so basically we fill this out at the beginning of the month.
We check it.
Yeah. So we have an actual column and then we have a budgeted column. So we fill out the budgeted column. So for example, groceries, we budgeted $400, but we only spent $372. For the gifts, we budgeted $300, but we spent $362. So we went over. So in this budget template that I'm looking at, so basically I'm looking at like compared to my budgeted numbers, what did we actually spend in June? And so some of them are like on target 100%, and then some of them are over. Like you spent 185% over your budget for personal care and wellness.
Yeah.
And so that's how we track our expenses, our income, and then we also track savings in here. So, we saved $3,000. We put that in our joint high yield savings account, and then $300 each to our brokerage. So seeing this, like seeing numbers, I love because I feel like numbers don't lie. Javi loves to say that. And so, seeing like every month, okay, this month we spent way more. June, like I said, was a little bit of a, less of a spend month. But for example, in March, we spent $6,894. So it really fluctuates based on like what we have going on that month. But anywhere from like $55,000 to $6,000 is kind of what we're averaging.
And you all are so transparent, right, with what you're spending, with your earning. Was it hard at first to share this type of information with the internet?
No, I've been sharing this since when I started my page. Like I literally used to have a little pie chart showing my paycheck and where I'm planning to send it. Even when I was making like, I was bringing home like $2,500 a month, and I was, like sharing it. Just I never thought that my page would blow up. I never thought I'd have so many eyeballs on it, but now I feel like I hope that it helps inspire people to do the same thing with their partner or even just themselves.
Yes.
Like just have a payday routine. It's like fun, especially
It
if you're
definitely,
yeah.
yeah. I know it's inspiring many, including myself. Can you tell us about World Cup? How much that cost to go, and
Yes.
was it worth it?
Yeah. So we have been saving for the World Cup since 2022 because that was the last World Cup. And we were like, we have to go to the next one. We knew that it was going to be in the US and in Mexico and Canada. So we were like, this is our chance. Hopefully the travel costs won't be too expensive. And the next one is going to be in Spain and Portugal. So we're already saving for that. I already told my siblings, like, you guys have to start saving.
Get
So
ready.
yeah. So our budget was $10,000 and that would include everything. But this World Cup was so expensive. So we signed up for the lottery as soon as it opened. And the lottery would just be like, you get selected to buy tickets at face value. So at whatever FIFA is selling them at. So we got really lucky and Javi got selected for the lottery. So at that point we bought 13 World Cup tickets. Some of them were gifts to Javi's dad. And then some of them we bought for like his brother, and then some of them we ended up selling. So the total cost for those tickets after, selling and gifting was $5,795. And then we actually ended up not using two of those tickets. So it ended up being less, like $2,000 less.
So it was like
So
3,000 something for 11
yeah,
tickets?
so
Okay.
3,795 for, let's see, I'll give you the exact number. So Javi and I went to two Ecuador games. So that's 4 tickets. And then we also gifted his dad 2 tickets. So 6 tickets. Houston and Miami are gone. Yeah. So for 6 tickets, it was around $4,000, $3,700.
Yeah.
And then bus tickets to Philly, $178. And that includes that's four tickets. So us, Javi's dad, his brother, because one of the games was in Philly, and then round trip flights to Mexico. That was $396 for 2 people. So that was
Not bad, actually.
$793. Yep. And then playoff games. So we ended up getting tickets. These are another 2 tickets, $1,500 that we bought for the last Mexico game that we went to, Mexico, Ecuador. And then we also bought opener tickets for the Mexico game that I bought from like a follower that just had them. That was the most expensive. That was $4,594.
For the 2 tickets?
Yeah, for the 2 tickets. Yep.
And you're saving up for them now for next time. So it sounds like it was worth it.
It's crazy. Like then I have a bunch of like other expenses like Uber, all these things. So
Were you
yeah,
in the 10,000 all in, do you think?
I think we're gonna come up just under 10,000 or around 10,000. Like maybe like yeah. Okay, right now I'm seeing like 99,911, but after we add up the rest of the Mexico stuff, it's probably gonna be closer to like 11, 12.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you'll budget for similar for next year or next time in 4
Next
years?
time in 4 years. Yeah, I think we're gonna budget more. I would love to take my family, like take my parents. They've never been to Europe. My siblings have never been to Europe. I've been a couple times. And yeah, I just want them to experience like more travel, more new experiences. And I feel like we're at a point, Javi and I, where our investments are going to grow regardless if we continue to invest aggressively or not. I mean, we're still going to continue to invest aggressively. I think my goal for this year is to invest $100,000. He's just trying to max out all his accounts. But I feel like it's definitely possible. Like, I think that there's so many ways to make money and there's a lot of ways to save too, to cut expenses. You just have to figure out like what's important to you. Like I don't spend any money on clothes anymore. I don't spend any money on nails. Like there's a lot of things that I've kind of like left in the past, that old me would be doing religiously, go shopping every week. I don't do that anymore because that's not what's going to bring me happiness at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I think like what truly brings me happiness is being able to gift experiences to my family and like have new experiences with Javi. So that's where my money is going.
I truly could talk to you about this stuff all day, but I know we have to go soon. I
I
have a couple
know.
questions about your business. So,
Yes.
because I know it's so inspiring when someone can go out on their own in their business. How did you know you were ready or that it was time to go full time?
Oh, I think I over prepared a little bit because I saved all of the money that I made last year. I saved all of it. So I think I ended the year with like 40 or $50,000. I made a post about this. I can't remember the exact number, but basically last year all of the money that I made from content, I didn't touch it until the end of the year. I used some of that money to max out my 401k, my solo 401k, because I had like left my job in October. So I didn't get to max out my 401k at work. So I opened up the solo 401k, and that's the only money that I took from all the money that I made from last year. I think it was like 7k that I invested, that I ended up investing to complete the 23.5. So that at that point I was like, okay, seeing how I had so much money to fall back on just for the business alone, I was like, okay, I can take a career break. And I've been wanting to do that for the past 2 years because I've just been super burnt out. So my husband was like pushing at the beginning of the year. He was like, this was last year at the beginning of the year. He was like, just quit your job. You're not happy. Take a career break. Just do content, do what makes you happy. We can afford to do that. We have savings. You're saving up all the business money. Like, you'll be okay. We'll be okay. And so I was like, no, I want to wait until, I feel like I have enough in the business account to be able to like fall back on in case something happens. So I got to the point where I think I reached like 50,000 or 40,000 in that account. And I was like, okay, I think I can like finally take this career break. So I did that in October. I left my job. And yeah, it's been amazing ever since. I launched a couple products. I launched this budget template, a debt tracker, an investment guide, and now I'm working on this like events community network. And so it's been amazing. It's been really just very thankful that I get to do this.
So it sounds like having like a number in the account had you feel ready. And then also just seeing these different ways that you earn money. What are the different ways that you earn money in your
Oh, yes.
business?
Yes, yes, yes. I forgot to break that down. So brand deals, affiliates, right? So anytime somebody signs up through my link, I get paid. Speaking events, I've done a couple. The products that I have. So I sell, the budget template, all those debt tracker, investment guide. And then that's it. I think the podcast isn't monetized. Podcasting is like a long-term thing. And then, yeah, I think that's it. I have like,
It's amazing.
I
That's
have it
a
all
lot
in
of
my,
ways.
but yeah, yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely more. I feel like I'm missing some, but
I guess you said also you do freelance writing.
yeah, yeah, I do freelance writing. And then hopefully now with this, like I said, community thing that I'm launching,
Like
it'll be,
members.
yeah, that'll be a different source of income. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of untapped, revenue streams that I haven't like even done yet. So I'm excited to like continue to explore entrepreneurship.
It's so exciting. I'm really excited for you. What's something about your finances that people would never guess?
I feel like I am organized, but I'm like, I go through periods where I'm a little bit of a hot mess. So sometimes I have to catch up on my finances. So, and I think that's
It's
normal.
very
Like,
relatable. Yeah.
like traveling for like the past couple weeks, I haven't done my payday routine for July yet. Like, my husband and I haven't sat down to actually fill out the numbers. We like in Mexico City, we sat down and we like filmed the like us pretending to look at my budget template and stuff.
So good.
So I have the footage, but I don't have the numbers yet. And so that's what's holding me up from posting the video. So he works from home tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to sit down and like actually go through all of the numbers. But I think that's one thing that maybe people on social media think like, oh, it takes like 5 minutes for them to, it's a 30-second video. They think like, oh, 30 seconds, they have their finances in order. But no, it's actually, like an hour long, 30-minute long process where we're actually sitting and discussing like, oh, what was this from? Or like, what did we spend here? Like, but yeah, I think it's normal to have periods of like, what did my last month look like? I have no idea. Let me go back. I think as long as you're like, not letting so much time pass and checking in, it'll work out.
It gets harder too to remember what things were. I have the same where I'll have a period where I get behind, and I also notice that I spend a little differently, like the further I get from checking in with it. But
Yeah.
I definitely have those time periods as well. Other than World Cup in 4 years, what are you working toward affording next?
My dream would be to like have a house one day, but not, I love living in the city. And so I think that my husband and I, we're at that stage where we're not sure if we want to have kids. We're like, we've always been like 99% no, 1% yes.
Mm.
But now that all of our friends and our families are like they're starting families, it's really hard. Like I feel like the pressure is really like we're really feeling it. So we might start saving, if we decide in the next year or two to start a family, like we might start a baby fund just in case. But it's very, yeah, I think right now I'm kind of just like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saving for next. I think just like I love that we got to enjoy life. I love that we're getting to enjoy life. I love that we live in the city. So just enjoying this stage of our life and having more conversations with Javi about like, okay, what do we really want next?
I love it. Enjoying, and then it sounds like building funds for potential decisions that you might decide you want, but that you haven't decided yet.
Yeah, yeah. I will say like I'm really happy right now. I'm just like so thankful for everything that this year has brought to us, and I never ever thought that I would be able to say that I went to a World Cup. So it still feels really, I don't know, it feels really unreal. I'm just so grateful. So I'm like just staying here in this like stage where I'm just happy and grateful and yeah.
Relishing in what you were able to do. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Thank you so much for sharing so openly, transparently about your own money journey. It's just such an inspiration and gives us like really tangible things we can do as we think about our own journeys. And congratulations on the business, the wedding, the podcast, all the things. Where can everyone find you and support your work?
Thank you so much. I had such a great time, as always, talking to you. People can find me on my biggest channel is Instagram, OverGenPoverty, but I'm also on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Substack as well.
Everyone go follow Viviana.
Yay.
Thank
you so much, Ashley.
Thank you so much for listening to How Do You Afford This? If you love this inside look into how people are actually affording their lives, follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We have new episodes dropping every week, and trust me, you do not want to miss them. And if you're enjoying the show, it would mean the world to me if you left a review. It takes just a minute and helps more people find us. One more thing before you go, if this got you fired up to chase your own money goals, come hang out with us in the Money Club. It's a community of ambitious women building wealth together, and on average, members put an extra $10,000 toward their money goals in the first year. Come see what it's all about at thefiscalfemme.com/money-club. All of it, the show, the club, everything I do is part of my mission to make crafting a wealthy life more accessible, more transparent, and a whole lot more fun. See you next week.